Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on The Flash Season 8. So we had the first part of The Flash's Armageddon event that is kicking off Season 8, hit our screens over the past week, with Part 2 hitting our screens in a couple of days from when this video will go out. And as you would expect from the start of a story where they set things up, but obviously don't reveal everything, there are questions that we're all having and asking ourselves and projecting onto others. So in this video, I thought I would go over some questions from you guys that I asked for on my community tab, and there are a bunch here. Sorry if I don't answer your question specifically that you wrote and it's not screenshot and everything like that, but it probably, if not definitely, fell under something from someone else that will be included in this video. So I should hopefully cover everything that would be wondered about from those watching. At least I hope that's the case. And throughout this Armageddon event, I'll probably do maybe one of these after every episode if it feels necessary. So I probably will ask in my reviews to leave questions that you have them, and then maybe once again, like I did this week, put a post on the community tab asking for questions. As I said, if it feels warranted. And I think after episode 1, there's definitely a few questions that people have. But yeah, of course, throughout the video, be sure to leave your various thoughts and opinions on the questions that are and the topics that are brought up throughout the video. I'm always curious to hear your thoughts, even if they differ from mine. And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video and you just want to show your support for the channel and the video, want to drop a like on the video to do all of that. So we're just going to go through these questions the way that my computer arranged them. I don't think these are the order that I took the screenshots. It's just the order that my computer arranged them. So if these feel a bit weird and out of place, you can blame my computer. So the first question comes from Luna Dark Sims, and they ask, what do you think is going on with Cecile? She acted weird when Chester mentioned the word dead, and Chester seemed to know what it was about as he quickly apologized. Now, this is definitely a question that was, posted a lot in the, the thread or the community tab post. It was just worded differently, mainly people specifically pointing to Joe, because this is what a lot of people are thinking is the case. And, this stems into another question, like, is Joe dead? And I have no idea. It's going to be very interesting to see what they reveal in regards to the Cecile stuff. I think this week they jump into that. So in episode 2, so in a couple of days, we should hopefully get the answer to this, or at least some sort of suggestion. Now, I would be shocked. It would be the biggest shock of all time that's ever happened on the show if Joe is now dead. If Joe is for some reason dead now, it would be the weirdest thing ever, because you're also going to look at like Barry and Iris. Like, they're all happy. There's no mention of Joe being dead there. It doesn't seem like, Iris has lost, her father after her mother died as well. So if it's, I just can't see it being that Joe's dead. Now, obviously, the important thing to remember is that Joe isn't at this CCPD anymore. So I'm not too sure. Maybe he's missing. I'm not too sure. It's going to be very interesting, but I'm assuming that we find out this week, because apparently that's the case. Apparently episode 2 is where we dive into that more. So hopefully we learn about it. Maybe it's her daughter. Maybe it's something to do with her daughter, because her daughter wouldn't really be connected with Barry and Iris, or it would really affect them, if we're being completely honest. So maybe it's Cecile's daughter, who we haven't seen since like season 3 or 4 or whenever it was. So maybe it's her. Oh, was it season 5? It was season 4, I think. So maybe it's her that's dead. If you have any thoughts, let me know in the comments. Next up is Nathan Wong, and they ask, how do you think The Flash knows Ryan Wilder's Batwoman without an official on-screen meet or mention on The Flash or Batwoman? Now, I'm very curious to see how this works. I think they might just make it that like Barry knows that Ryan is Batwoman, and he found he found out about that off screen, maybe between season 6 and 7. You could even argue that maybe they met between season 6 and 7. It's not the most perfect entry, but I think they're just not going to have enough time to probably do the introductions. If they wanted to do something where, like, news spread through the grapevine and Barry found out that there was a new Batwoman and they were Ryan Wilder, you can maybe argue that it's through like Supergirl or something like that, because the connection between those two shows. Or you could even argue that Kate, when she gave up the Batwoman mantle, let all the other members of the League know. So she let Black Lightning, let Supergirl, Martian Manhunter, White Canary, Superman, all them. She let them know that she was no longer Batwoman, which I guess would be the nice thing to do, the considerate thing to do. So maybe that's what happened, and it happened off screen. So there could be a couple different options there. I guess the big question is whether they've actually properly met before, or if Barry and like the others just know that there's a new Batwoman. So we'll definitely know once that happens on screen whether they've met before. but it's hard to tell going into it. Arrowverse AMVs asked, how do you think Season 8 will work out Iris's time sickness? Do you think they will have discovered a cure or something like that? I'm very curious to see what this time sickness thing is. We know it's not meant to be a major player in the Armageddon event, but it will be, brought up like a handful of times. Obviously, it was mentioned in the first episode, just in passing, in a conversation with Barry and Iris. And I think it's either this week's episode or episode 3. I think they dive into it again briefly in like a couple of scenes. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be a cure, because I don't know if they just have this whole thing, oh, it goes for the whole season, then all of a sudden just gets cured and there's no sort of thing that comes out of it. So I wonder if it's actually attached to a proper story that brings in other people, just involves other people in the show and actually involves, different areas in time and everything like that. Hopefully it isn't just this thing where Iris is struggling and then she just magically gets cured and it doesn't really develop anything, whether it's the character or the story. Hopefully it has a purpose, and I think it will. I don't know why they would do it if it didn't have a purpose. It's a really weird one to do, just randomly not do anything with it. So I don't know if necessarily they'll just develop a cure out of thin air, but I am curious to see how it actually plays into the story. Waddle Studios asked, do you think the show will keep up Barry's level of speed in the future / being able to take down bad guys easily? It's the hardest thing when you have a character like the Flash who is so overpowered, or has like the potential to be so overpowered. Like even in the comics will have Barry, versing, Reverse Flash, or, taking part in the Justice League, and he's, versing gods and all these ridiculous things. And then there'll be another issue where he's taking on, the super pie man or something, the guy that throws, banana cream pies or something like that, and Barry gets defeated. It's just how comic book things work. Like when you have a character that can be so overpowered, but you just can't have godly villains showing up all the time. So there's always going to be inconsistency, sorry. But hopefully what you want on the show is that they just explain why Barry can be defeated, or any character with a certain level of power can be defeated by this random person here. I just don't, it's never going to be consistent on the show because it's not even consistent in the comics. So yeah, it's just a hard thing, I think, to be consistent with it. But I don't know. I think what I'd like to see is that Barry's not slow. You know what I mean? Like, he's not like, yeah, he can save that train in 12 seconds, but then another episode later, it takes him 5 times longer to do the exact same thing for no real reason. If they give a reason, then that's what we want. And if it just makes half sense, then I'm fine with that. Michael Wazowski asks, since Caitlin called Alex at the end of the episode, what episode do you think she appears in, and why didn't they call Kara? In regards to the end of that question, why didn't they call Kara? I think it's pretty simple. They just couldn't get Melissa Benoist to be in this event in regards to time, and they've talked about it. And even getting Alex Danvers was a crunch time thing, but because she wasn't the main character on Supergirl, they could do it. But with doing it with Melissa Benoist was borderline impossible, if just straight up impossible. In regards to what episode she appears in, we know she's in episodes 3 and 4. So she's in 2 episodes. Batwoman, Ryan Choi, and Alex Danvers are in episodes 3 and 4. And Black Lightning is in episodes 2 and 3. And it seems that Mia Queen is in episode 5. So that's like the guest character layout, if you want to call it. James Mason Albrecht, hopefully I pronounced that surname correctly. If you have the powers or skills of any character from Armageddon, which would you choose? Can we include Despero? Because he seems pretty overpowered, so I might say Despero, even though if it's not him, then I'd probably just say the Flash. But yeah, maybe if in regards to like the character that's not the Flash, I'd probably say Despero. It seems pretty overpowered what he can do. Yasmin75 asked, what are your expectations for the rest of Armageddon? As in, what would you hope to see that hasn't been confirmed yet? I'm interested to see if there's any surprise guest stars. That's what I'm curious about. Apparently, there potentially is one this week that it wasn't announced. I'm not too sure if that's actually 100% true or not. And by this week, I mean episode 2, but I guess we'll have to wait and see if that's actually a thing or not. But just, yeah, I'm interested to see like if there's actually a surprise in regards to the identity, and it isn't just like an evil Barry or something like that, but not our Barry, like an alternate Barry. Hopefully it's not that, or if it is that, maybe there's another twist to it as well. I just want to be surprised, you know what I mean? I don't want to be expecting it, but to be honest, I think the Flashes surprise people more often than not. Whether it's positive or negative is up to you. But I think you can never guess 100% what's going to happen. So as long as there's like some sort of surprise here and there, for the rest of this Armageddon event, especially towards the end, then I'd be, satisfied, and that's at the bare minimum what I would want. LM98 edits put asked, are they gonna sorry, I can't read. Are they gonna find out about the multiverse, or the multiverse existence soon? In this event, no, I don't think it needs to be there, but it is important to remember that Superman and Lois referenced the multiverse, involved the multiverse in their first season, so they're the first show to do it post-crisis. So I would expect maybe the Flash might dabble into it later this season, depending on what the whole villain situation is. And there is actually a question about villain stuff, which we'll come back to later in this video. It's another question. But I guess depending on the villain situation, there could be multiverse stuff. But we do have, and I think I mentioned this in one of my recent videos over the past couple of days, we do have the 10th anniversary of the Arrowverse next season. Next season is 10 years since the Arrowverse started. They'll 100% do a crossover, I'm sure of it, and I think it'll be a special one, maybe even on the level of Crisis on Infinite Earths, just in regards to fan service and everything like that. And if that's going to be the case, surely you involve the multiverse, so you can bring back Brandon Routh's Superman and any other alternate characters that you want to use. Surely you do that, and that wouldn't surprise me too much if that's the crossover where Stargirl folds into it. Wouldn't surprise me too much if they even try to get like the Titan stuff in there and various things like that. Wouldn't surprise me at all, but I think that's where you'll get proper multiverse stuff next. Even though there could be little, dabblings into it, before that, especially Superman and Lois, as well, but that's for us to wait and find out. Impulsive Studios asked, do you think Ryan and Ray will share at least one scene together? I think you mean like Ryan Choi. I think because there's Ryan Choi and then there's Ryan Wilder, so there's two characters named Ryan. But for some reason, at first you thought you meant Ryan Wilder. But yeah, Ryan and Ray. From what we know at the moment, there isn't a scene between them together, but surely there must be. It's not like Ray Palmer died in episode 1; he just went away. Surely there's a scene between them, or there's something like that, because we know that Ryan Choi becomes the Atom in this event towards the end. We know that's been confirmed. So surely, I don't know how you have the one Atom in episode 1, another Atom being born later on, and not have a scene between the two. Surely there has to be at least one scene together, and they made that work. Sure, we had them in Crisis together for a couple of scenes, but not as them both as the Atom, or just in regards to like Atom discussion or passing of the mantle and everything like that, potentially. Surely that happens. I think that'd actually be one thing I'd be disappointed by if we did not get it. So fingers crossed. Wet Spaghetti Noodle, what a name, asked, was there ever a comic version of this event? Yes, there was. It's actually called Armageddon 2001, but it was actually a comic from the early 90s, 1991, and similar to what we saw at the beginning of episode 1 of The Flash, where we went 10 years in the future to 2031 when all this Armageddon stuff was happening. That's the exact same thing in the comic. So it's based in 1991, but there's a threat in 2001 that's doing all this stuff and, Armageddon level stuff. And it's a mystery, pretty much, trying to find out who it is. Now, so you can see that like they're loosely basing this crossover or like event on that, using the rough sort of like outline of it, but using the Flash and the characters around that and the characters they want to use. Whether there's that much of a mystery like there was in the comic version is another question. We'll probably find out in episodes 2 or 3 in regards to that. But yes, there is a comic version of the event. It's not going to be overly faithful because they're using different characters and everything like that. But if you want to go read it to see if there's any Easter eggs and everything like that, Armageddon 2001, there you go. Zazman Reviews asked, what villains will you want graphic novel number 2 and number 3 to be this season? I don't have specific villains. I just let they write it. You know what I mean? Like, I'd love to see Color Blue. Red Death would be an interesting, thing to see on the show and how they would take it. Brother Grimm, and I've talked about a couple of characters that they could potentially use going forward. Of course, Reverse Flash is always sitting there. An alternate version of Hunter Zolomon or a post-crisis Hunter Zolomon would be pretty interesting. Even just some like different rogues and everything like that would be very cool. But we know that one is going to be like a horrific villain. They're going to sort of dabble into the horror genre with one of the villains. I don't know if it's meant to be the one directly after Armageddon, but we know that there's 2 threats that rise from the ashes of Armageddon. I don't know if that's 2 threats, there's 2 villains in one graphic novel straight after, or if it's just, one after the other. I'm not too sure. We'll have to wait and see. But I don't have any specific expectations for villains, but I'm very curious to see what they are because they are dabbling into that horror genre. We saw that with Stargirl. They did it really, really well. So I wonder what they'll do on the Flash. When you think horror, you think Red Death. Like that's probably the one you go to, but who knows what it's going to be. And the final question, Meet Yeet 11, what a name, goes, when and how will Barry get the gold boots? We know he gets them, at least he's in episode 5 he has them. He might get them in episode 4, but at least in episode 5 he has them, and then it continues into the rest of the season. In regards to how, it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if it's Ryan Choi. It wouldn't surprise me if Ryan Choi looks at Barry's suit and goes, hey, I really like your suit, but it's missing one thing. Here you go. And it's the gold boots. It wouldn't surprise me too much if it's that. Maybe it's a parting gift from one of the guest stars. Maybe Mia Queen goes, hey, in the future, you look a bit different. Do you want to know what it is? Hey, it's these gold boots. You know, maybe it's something like that. But yeah, I would expect it's one of the guest stars that does the gold boot stuff. But my guess would be Ryan Choi. Maybe you might think different, but my guess is Ryan Choi. Because we know that he also did the whole flash ring and suit stuff in the future. So I guess that'd be a cool tie-in that he does, you know, don Barry with the gold boots. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. That's it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various thoughts and maybe differing opinions on what we went over in this video. Always curious to read what you guys are thinking. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. As I said, you know, in my review for part 2, I'll ask you to leave questions in there if you want to, put them forward to then be in a video like this time next week. And I'll also put a post on the community tab, so keep your eyes out for those 2 things. I mean, hopefully you watch the reviews weekly. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Goodbye.